Hello, hello. This is Luke Stokes. It's let's see, Wednesday, August 21st, and I'm really excited to have David Gold, the CEO of Dapix, on this little short interview. As you may know, I've been working with them since October last year, and it's the company behind the Foundation for Interwallet Operability (FIO) protocol, and we've been working together officially since January. I've been on the team. I've been just really excited about this protocol, really excited about what we're building. And I just the other day was thinking, man, I gotta get David on a little recording just to even introduce to my small little audience, because I've had so much fun working with you, and you told a story about the origin of why this whole thing exists. So I was really excited to do that. And again, I think there are major problems in the cryptocurrency world, the blockchain world. One of them being identity and key management, and the second one being usability. And these long, confusing strings and QR codes and all these things are just, they're not going to get us to the mass adoption that I think most of us in this space are excited about. And you have a solution for that. So David, thank you so much for giving me your time. I appreciate it.
Hey, great to be here with you, Luke.
It's funny to see the background because it's like, I feel like I kind of infected our team with the Zoom background. we have a fully remote team. Well, not fully remote. A lot of the team is in Denver, but we often have remote calls. And one by one, I noticed people started using the Zoom backgrounds. And I've kind of become known for my little green screen.
That's right. Yeah, fire and ice going on here. You're hot and I'm cool.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how, what have you been involved in that led you into wanting to be involved in this? And then also just like your introduction to the cryptocurrency space in general.
How far back do you want me to go?
Oh, I mean, I'd say pretty far back. I think when you first recruited me and you were talking about what you've been involved in, I was very impressed. I was like, oh man, if there's anybody who can do this, this makes sense.
So, I mean, if you want to go really far back, I guess starting from the earlier times, I'm an engineer by education, undergrad in mechanical. I have 2 master's degrees. One of them is in aerospace engineering from University of Colorado and MIT. And I did some engineering with NASA for a while. Was and still am a big space buff. Certainly at times during my undergrad, dreamed of being an astronaut. That sort of actually motivation helped me get through engineering school and all the hard work. But that never happened. I did work for NASA, and after the Challenger accident, actually became interested in the interface between technology and government policy because of the really poor policy decisions that were key contributors to the Challenger accident happening in the first place. And that was my other graduate degree is in technology policy from MIT. Ended up working in the executive office of the president for a few years on technology policy in the Department of Commerce. A couple of years of that was great. I kind of viewed that as my give back, to my country. And from there, I did manufacturing consulting for a few years, and then I got bit by the .com bug back in the early 90s when it was all just starting to happen with World Wide Web. And jumped ship, quit my job, started a .com in 1995, company that became called ProSavvy. We ultimately built a B2B procurement solution for professional services. So it started out with a pretty simple idea. Today, it's an extraordinarily simple idea, but you have to rewind and think back to the mid-90s when this wasn't so simple.
95, that's like super early. My first website was 96 and I was still in high school,
There you go. So, and the concept was real simple. I had just spent years in the consulting industry, and I was like, my God, the consulting industry is broken. If you were to look up market failure in an economics dictionary, they could say, see consulting industry. Back then, especially, I mean, to find a consultant, there was no World Wide Web. So you just had to go through word of mouth, or you had to call one of the handful of huge, global consulting firms, Deloitte and those ones, and they'd ship in a bunch of graduate students to do work at $250 an hour, and it sucked, and you'd be unhappy with it, and you'd go right back to it again. So I was like, gee, what if we can create a database and an online directory of consultants and consulting firms that actually has information about what they're good at that people can search and find something that helps them find these resources that they need. And that was the beginning of it. That was the genesis of the idea. It ultimately became today what we would call a software as a service platform. We didn't call it that back then. It had enterprise software as a service platform with a whole procurement engine and workflow database of hundreds of thousands of consulting firms, RFQ, RFX sort of engine behind it, everything you mentioned. Navigated through the crash of in the dot bomb, had to go through the pain of laying off half my company and getting profitable, had an M&A event, became an angel investor for a number of years, working with a variety of tech, almost all information technology startups. Reconnected with a guy that I'd gotten to know when I was running my company, Frank Mendocino. He had just had a first closing on a second venture fund, Access Venture Partners. And he asked me if I would jump in part-time with them. I did that, and 30 days later, it was full-time. The rest was history on that. 11 plus years later, I was a general partner through 3 funds at Access Venture Partners. About 4 years ago, I jumped in to be our subject matter expert on blockchain as things were really starting to take off with blockchain, and be the go-to guy in our firm on that. Quickly fell down the crypto rabbit hole on blockchain and fell in love with it. Really found myself feeling like the first time since the World Wide Web, like I did back then. And what I mean by that is both the good and the bad, because when I opened my first Mosaic web browser on dial-up, I think it might have been 52 kilobytes per second dial-up, not 28.8, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, see, I was still, I remember the 28.8 like IRC channels and stuff.
Yeah, so, when I did that the first time, on the one hand, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is going to change the world. This can do so much. And on the other hand, I'm sitting there, waiting and pounding on my keyboard and going, man, this sucks. It's so slow. The UI for this thing sucks. It's buggy. It's hard to use. It's just text, and it's just text. There was no graphics back then, just text and hyperlinks. And so it had a long way to go. And honestly, my first exposure to blockchain and crypto, and when I dug in and started, I said, I gotta go play with this. Like, how do you do it? And my first wallets and moving stuff around, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. The concept that I can move value around, really fast to a party that I don't even know on the other end of the transaction, and we both can trust that the value was transferred is huge, and it's game changing, and it affects so many things. At the same time, I was like, my God, this sucks. The UI sucks. These long public keys are incoherent. The risk associated with this is horrible. And I did have an unfortunate experience of moving Ethereum.
We'll get into that in just a second. I mean, I want to unpack a little bit everything you said. I mean, when you were describing to me your experience directly investing in companies to make the internet more useful, I mean, that whole involvement in the tech space and the immediate understanding of how the internet was just difficult to use early on, and things were not intuitive. Things were a little frustrating. It was kind of that Wild West scary place that, normal people didn't go. It's just the crazy hackers and everyone and all the misfits, and watching that kind of space evolve as people solved the last mile problem that really got high-speed bandwidth to the homes. I look at that as a major breakthrough, because then you could start doing things like Netflix and this, call that we're on now, streaming through the internet. These are things that just weren't possible because the technology protocols for compression and all that, and the high-speed bandwidth and all that just wasn't there. And when you were talking to me about FIO, I'm talking about the Foundation for Interwallet Operability, this way that we can, we should unpack what that is a little bit. It's essentially a way that I can have Luke Stokes, and that could be my address for any blockchain, for any wallet, for any address even, on any, and it's that simple. Just like Venmo, just like PayPal, if I want to send value to someone, I want to interact with them on a blockchain of their choosing, I can just have that one identifier right in my wallet. I can get a notification, say, hey, here's your shopping cart. I just want to send it, pay for it, done. Super, super simple. I mean, I've got 2 demos running on my phone now with VRD and Koinomi, and I know we have more coming. It's just really exciting to know that this is the thing I've been looking for so long, since early 2013, thinking about how that same sense of frustration, like, this is confusing, it doesn't make sense, this is going to change the world, but I can't even get, my parents to understand it, let alone my grandparents. And creating new interfaces and better interfaces and working with the existing interfaces with a protocol that's going to make things easier, I just got really excited about. And I can remember even thinking, wow, that's really cool. Just that lookup system with built-in security, that seems so great, but why not just use QR codes? That was kind of my thought at the time. Like, why, those aren't too bad. I've used that with my phone before. It's super annoying when you're on the phone and you have to do your QR code. Because, like, what do I do? Take a picture and try to upload the picture? And it's just, I've literally taken my laptop and tilted it towards, like, to try to get QR codes that way. And so it's like, yeah, it's annoying, but it kind of works. But then the more I thought about it, the more, and we had a conversation a couple weeks ago. We told a story that just, it made it click for me. That, and even prior to that, thinking about this, whenever you give someone your public address, your public key with a blockchain, that's a key exchange. That's a very serious transaction in the cryptographic world that you just don't do that lightly, because you have to know, you have to have some kind of trust with that party that you're getting the right key. There's a thing called the man in the middle attack. Usually those transfers are done through text messages or some kind of unsecure network, and there's no way to know that the person you're interacting with hasn't been injected with someone in the middle. And so they sent you their actual private key, someone came, or their actual public key, sorry, their public address, and then someone in the middle swapped it to their public address, and you get it, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll pay you now. And you pay them, and then they're like, hey, I never got the money, what's the deal? And you're like, no, I paid it to you. And they're like, that's not my address, I sent you this address. And you're like, oh no. And this happens way more often than it should. And this is another reason why, this is the main reason why I'm really excited about FIO. It's not only bringing usability, but it's also really dealing with that key exchange of public addresses. So yeah, tell me a little more about the QR codes and kind of your origin story of how this came about.
Yeah, so early in my, diving into the blockchain space, the important part was actually getting my hands on it and playing with it and utilizing it. And so one day I was just moving some Ethereum from a mobile wallet on my phone to a desktop wallet, and I thought I'll scan a QR code. And so I did that. And for whatever reason, to this date, haven't really figured out why it flipped a digit. 6 digit in the ETH address got changed to a different letter. And obviously that ETH is now locked up forever on the Ethereum blockchain. It's gone. One of the wallets was actually really good in working with me. I actually think it was the other wallet that had the bug in it that didn't have the right error checking or whatever, that went on. But, certainly at that point, I already was at the point where I was like, man, this is really hard. It's really complicated. Your average person on the street, the techies who are in blockchain, a lot of them are like, what's hard about it? It's not a big deal. It's like, you know what? You're not the average Joe or Jane. The average
those are the same guys that configured their modems in order to connect to dial-up, so they could do a bulletin board on the internet. It's like, that's not the mass adoption path that we want, right?
If my web surfing grandma isn't comfortable using it, then it is not easy enough yet. So it's got to be that easy. And so I dug in and started looking at what's being done to fix this. And clearly wallet names are not a new concept, the concept of human readable wallet names. And I, as a VC, I dug in and looked at what had been attempted or was being attempted around that. And that was really the only area of significance. And very quickly, when I looked at the different attempts at wallet names, what became clear to me were a few things. Number one, wallet names are necessary but not sufficient to solve the usability problem. It is not a holy grail just to say, ooh, we have wallet names, we've abstracted away public addresses. There's a lot more to the challenges of the actual workflow of moving value from one party to another that is required to improve this. Some of these will be in the initial FIO implementation, things like payment requests, the ability to send a decentralized payment request. That is how most transactions of value in the real world start, with a order card, an invoice, a bill, etc. Those are payment requests. So you have to have the ability to do that, and have to be easy and decentralized and secure. Metadata, which I just sort of alluded to. Transactions of value in the real world almost always come with some context. What the heck is this for?
Yeah.
Some blockchains have the concept of metadata, some don't. They're each implemented differently. Because of that, very few wallets implement the concept of metadata on other blockchains. And so largely the concept of metadata in decentralized transactions doesn't exist today for the end user's perspective, right? But then beyond that, things like the need for recurring payments, the need to maybe even have opt-in ability for a user to be able to somehow certify who they are, who they say they are, things like that can be done in a decentralized way. So that's what was the genesis of the FIO protocol. I started looking at these things, started thinking about how do you solve this when I couldn't find a solution that I believed would work. I started thinking about how to solve it and piece together the initial thoughts behind today, what is the FIO protocol, both the technical aspects of it and the business model aspects of it. And the business model aspects of it are really critical as well. I'm not a believer in if you build it, they will come. I think you have to build great technology and have clarity on your path to market where end users will ultimately engage with it. And with the FIO protocol and how it's constructed, I think we have both those things. And that's showing in the early signs on the industry side with our already 25 FIO members and growing. And now we're going to be doing some exciting things on the end user side to get end users engaged.
That's what I'm really excited about. It's actually another reason why I wanted to kind of have this little, recorded conversation to say, hey, we've been doing really well on the B2B side, talking to the biggest business players in this industry, but we haven't really talked publicly to the end user to say, hey, we're about to make your life way easier. And we're just starting that conversation. And I'm really, really excited about it. I'm really proud to have been part of this process because I do think it's going to be really important. I think, as you know, I'm working with decentralized autonomous communities and all these other like really cool blockchain solutions, but none of them are going to be available if we can't make cryptocurrency itself usability very easy and simple. If somebody can just go on their phone and interact with these systems and have it not be confusing, then that's going to work out great. And we're actually hopefully within a week or two going to be announcing the white paper and the roadmap, which every time I read through it, I'm just like so excited about what we're building. And I really do think that there's going to be a lot of people very excited about this technology because as they read through it, they're going to realize that, I hope they're going to realize that we put a lot of thought into this. And importantly, so we actually have a white paper, which is an actual, like, not a sales document, not a marketing document. It just explains the problem and how we're trying to solve it. And then we have another document that we're calling internally the roadmap. And the roadmap, people will probably end up calling it the white paper, but this is kind of the way that the Dapix organization is working to solve this via the FIO protocol. And the FIO protocol is going to be owned and operated by the community. And I think that's one of the key things that you explained to me early on and what you just alluded to, that the business incentives to support this protocol and to integrate this protocol, I don't think have been seen before. There's a lot of other naming systems out there. There's, as you know, I've been involved in BitShares and Steam and EOS, which has a pretty good naming system, but they're all silos. They all work really well with their one blockchain. And there's no incentive to encourage anyone to build something outside of their silo, because generally with Metcalfe's law, network effects and things like that, as soon as you start diluting your own little thing that you control, it's like eventually you're like, oh man, I might be diluting my value. I want my network to be strong and big within what I'm getting value from. And so this idea that the block producers are actually going to be market participants, as far as they're going to be wallets, exchanges, those type of people, that is a really exciting thing to me. And the way the fee structure works within the FIO protocol is going to incentivize them to be really good actors in the system and also to own and operate the protocol. We were just the other day talking through what my title is within the organization. And, it was kind of initially going to be CTO as a part-time role, but didn't quite make sense. And I love that you came up with this term, the Chief Decentralization Officer. And that got me very, very excited, because as we just started describing what my role is and what I'm going to be involved in doing, that made perfect sense. And it's just this idea that we're going to be taking what is initially somewhat centralized in the Dapix development team is obviously building this protocol. But as we go in through testnet and as we go in through mainnet launch, this is going to be completely decentralized, owned and operated by the different entities in the ecosystem. They will be the block producers. And I'm just really excited about that. And the experience I've had as a Steam witness, the experience I've had with EOS Stack as an EOS block producer, I think I've seen these things go this way, and I've learned quite a bit actually, from watching centralized organizations try to, with varying levels of success, become decentralized. And I'm really excited about your vision and Pavo's vision in the product team, and just that you get it. And we're even talking about the FIO Foundation, the Foundation for Interwallet Operability, actually being decentralized. We've even been discussing just even this week the use of the EOS stack potentially to build a decentralized autonomous community. So the members of the community will have an actual say in the governance on some level for how this foundation is going to be operating. Of course, there'll be legal structures and other things in place, and we have to be compliant and all those things. But it's very exciting to me to think we can actually build protocols that everyone in the cryptocurrency community will inevitably, from my perspective, want to be a part of, because the motivational incentives are aligned. They're going to get paid to participate. And at the same time, they're actually, it's not going to infringe in any way on their little silo. It's actually going to bring all the different previously competing protocols, wallets, and exchanges together to work together to create a seamless interface for their customers, which ultimately we all know is you improve the user experience in this whole space. The rising tide raises all ships. We're all going to benefit from it. And I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I am as well.
And so we've got a lot of cool things coming. I wasn't sure how much of this we want to tease out, but we have basically, and I want to make sure maybe unpack a little bit more about the protocol itself. Again, the roadmap and white paper are coming, but we have a concept of a FIO address, which includes a domain and the address part of it. And so like I could have domain Stokes, for example, and I could have my name, the FIO name Luke. So I could have Luke:Stokes would be my FIO address, and I could attach that to an individual wallet, which would mean, you know, all the blockchains that wallet supports, or I could attach it to a particular blockchain, or even to a very specific particular blockchain address. And so we have a kind of a pre-sale coming that I'm very excited about. We've been working on this website where people are going to be able to bid on domain names. They're going to be able to reserve FIO addresses for the wallets they already use. And it's really exciting. And I know this is coming. We've been working on this hard, and I just want to kind of tease it out there that if you want to have your identity in the blockchain space, but not tied to a specific blockchain that you control with your own private key, and you can adjust it and reconnect it to different things, keep an eye out for this announcement. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to kind of be out of nowhere for some people, because I don't know how many people on the customer facing side have been paying attention to what we've been working on for so long, but it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, no, we're excited to get the FIO address pre-sale and domain auction live here imminently, and it will be really our first move to enable end users to actually start to engage in some way with the FIO protocol. And so we are excited about that. And as you mentioned, you know, the big difference with FIO and FIO addresses, even just compared to other wallet naming efforts, the big differences are, number one, the FIO address is actually your gateway to a whole set of functionality beyond just a human readable wallet name. Initially, it'll include the ability to utilize FIO requests, both send and receive, and FIO data, which is the metadata, and in the future, a variety of other things. Getting a FIO address gives you access to all those other capabilities, which makes it much more than just a human readable wallet name. As you mentioned, FIO addresses will work immediately with every single blockchain that exists today and in the future. Other blockchains do not need to integrate anything. Technically speaking, other blockchains don't even know that the FIO protocol exists. That's part of the power of what the FIO protocol does. The FIO protocol is completely decentralized. Some wallet naming efforts have not been completely decentralized, and there were centralized elements to them. And the FIO protocol is private, and that's really important. Privacy has been designed in by design into the FIO protocol.
And I want to unpack that a little bit. What that means is essentially, if I was to send value to you, you know, they may know that, you know, Luke:Stokes sent value somewhere, but they won't know that it was to you, and they won't even know your FIO address, and they won't know the metadata that was included in that transfer, let alone the amount. And I think these are things that we talked about quite a bit. And it's important because, you know, in these situations, people would say, wait, you can't put information on a blockchain that's publicly identifying people. How are you going to get around that? And so we thought about this from the very beginning to encrypt this data. We also have mechanisms where you can, you know, change keys if you need to. So it's exciting that this is a core component of what we're doing, because I think most people immediately would think, wait, you know, my wallet automatically, you know, uses a new address with every transaction. Why would I want to use something that might be tied to all of that? And we've thought that through so that things are going to work smoothly. And it's going to be pretty exciting. And another big part of it is that, as you said, it's owned and operated by the community. It's in a decentralized mechanism. And so very shortly, I'm going to be talking with a lot of the EOS.io-based block producers on all these different chains, Boss, Wax, Telos, EOS, Mainnet, of course. There's more and more that are coming up, Warbly, and say, hey, this is another EOS.io-based chain. Although we've made a significant number of modifications to the chain, the core chain, they can run as block producers to support these exchanges, wallets, and payment gateways in the space. And so I think there's going to be this great opportunity for people to participate. And that's another reason why I want to start these conversations more often, to let them, you know, let my fellow block producers know what's coming, and so they can get involved, because this is going to be really exciting. And it's also going to be, you know, like you said, built with an economic model that right off the bat makes sense. It makes sense for the integrators, it makes sense for the validators, and it makes sense for the users. You know, there is going to be a fee, just like you pay for your domain name to have a .com or something like that. There's going to be an annual fee for these addresses and domains. but they're going to provide so much value, and the wallet integrations in some cases might subsidize some of that. So there's going to be just really great economic models. And if you follow my content for a while, I'm really interested in crypto economics and economics in general and philosophy. So to me, this is a really exciting to see how all these pieces have come together to solve this problem.
Yeah.
It's exciting stuff. I'm trying to think if we should cover anything else. I mean, that's kind of a whole lot we got, but this hopefully will just be one of many conversations. As I was telling you, we've had so many great conversations, and I've just been thinking like, oh man, I want to get some of this out there to the community so they can start getting to know you more in the crypto space. I mean, I know you've been a speaker and a panelist and a moderator at many conferences, and many more coming, I'm sure. But it's just, to me, I feel like I talk to a lot of people in the space and they're like, wait, FIO? What's that? I don't know. I'm like, oh, they haven't heard about FIO yet. And then when I tell them about it, they get so excited. They're like, oh my goodness. They have the same response I have, which is like, this is what's neat.
I think that there'll be a big difference on that front in just a few months here, as we now are becoming very public about what we're doing. We've been quiet purposefully, building our technology and building the relationships with the wallets, exchanges, and crypto payment processors and the FIO members, of which we have 25 now. And now, we're at the point where end users will be able to really start to understand this with the pre-sale, with the release of our white paper and roadmap also coming up very, very soon. We anticipate launching testnet access this fall. So there'll be a lot of different ways that end users can start interacting with this and seeing what this will do for the ecosystem. At the highest level, the goal of the FIO protocol is to do for blockchain what the hypertext transport protocol did for the internet, meaning both of them are protocols that are focused on usability and that took a great underlying technology and made it easy to use. Now, get below those comparisons, the differences are stark between what we're doing in HTTP, but as far as the goal level and the outcome level, it is that sort of a goal. FIO is a service layer to the entire crypto and blockchain ecosystem. It sits beside every other blockchain and enables a homogeneous user experience that's very easy to use, regardless of which underlying blockchain the user is transacting on. And ultimately, our goal is to empower every blockchain to be more successful, and quite honestly, to alleviate some of the need for those blockchains to have to think about spending time on these issues when it isn't really what most of these blockchains are about. They're about plumbing, and it's important, critical plumbing, without which we have nothing. So it'll enable them to focus on the things they should be focusing on, to enable the underlying infrastructure of the blockchain ecosystem to work successfully and to continue to improve, while the FIO protocol hopefully becomes that service layer that can continue to improve and advance and provide that user experience for everybody. Through our partner FIO members, they will be integrating, grabbing the SDKs, the APIs, and integrating this capability into their products, their wallets, their exchanges, or crypto payment processing platforms to enable this user experience in their product in a way that, quite simply, they can't otherwise, because the FIO protocol is an industry standard that sits between all of them and provides that glue between them, so they have a common way of interacting. So things like FIO addresses and FIO requests and FIO data that are completely cross-chain become possible between completely different companies' products. So it's going to be very, very cool, and we're looking forward to this fall and becoming very public about what we're doing.
Fantastic. So you can find out more about everything going on at FIO.foundation. That's FIO.foundation. Join FIO is the Twitter handle. We also have a Discord account for our kind of tech advisor group that we're building there. We'd love for you to join the Discord, and that's going to be a growing community as we continue to decentralize this out. We're on Telegram. We're on all the different things. You could find it from our website. Again, David, I know you're very busy, lots of cool stuff going on. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to, again, as I said, more conversations with this, and just the excitement as more and more people figure out what it is we've been doing this whole time. It's going to be really cool. So thank you.
Thank you. Follow us on Twitter, on Telegram. Go to our website, get our email list. We'd love to stay in touch with you.
Awesome. Thank you.